get familiar with the public transit in your area, because a lot of times like that is a really important tool for a touring cyclist to be able to take advantage of.
Right. Like how to put yourself into their shoes, into their clip-on bike shoes. Sorry.
Welcome to the Streets.mn podcast, the show where we highlight how transportation and land use can make our communities better places. Coming to you from beautiful Seward, Minneapolis, Minnesota, I am your host, Ian R. Buck. We've all heard stories about individuals traveling long distances by bicycle, touring across countries and continents. But did you know that there's a worldwide community of hosts ready to offer space in their home for bike tourists? It's called Warmshowers, and it comes complete with a website to help connect guests with hosts. Christina Neel has been on Warmshowers for a couple of seasons, and she wanted to do an episode talking about the experience. So today she's sitting in the host seat, and I get to sit back and relax in the guest chair.
Hello, Ian R. Buck.
Hello, Christina Neel.
Do you know what we're going to be talking about today?
We're going to be talking about warm showers.
Yes. I know it sounds a little cheeky, doesn't it? Warm showers.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's probably the most unfortunate thing about this online platform.
Yep. So I kind of want to start out with a little history of warm showers and what they are, and then we can talk about our experience, our relationship with it as both guests and hosts. But let's start out with what exactly is warm showers. So I want to talk about their mission and vision. So the mission they listed as to facilitate and promote safe, free, reciprocal hospitality in the worldwide touring bicycle community. So Warm Showers is essentially like a free stay and accommodations for bike tourers.
Yeah. But it's not like the platform isn't providing that. The platform
Correct.
is a place to connect touring bicyclists with people who are willing to host them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like couch surfing a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I'm familiar with couch surfing. That's kind of how I became really pro trying warm showers, is because I had that experience with couch surfing as a traveler. But then it also has a little bit of like foruminess.
Yeah, I haven't dove into the online forum, but I know that there's a lot of like, I mean, this is the biking world, so that people are always excited to talk about like gear and, you know, give each other tips and tricks and whatever.
But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. So I want to talk about warmshowers.org and the foundation and where it all came from. So you ready for a little history lesson?
Let's do it.
So in 1976, John Mosley put out an ad in the magazine Bike World. It's a U.S. magazine. And he wanted to create a touring cyclist hospitality directory.
Really rolls off the tongue.
It really does. And this started in Colorado, as it should. And he ended up getting 800 names, and he kept them in a Rolodex. And dear listener, if you don't know what a Rolodex is, please Google image it, because it is quite a way to organize 800 names and locations. And it pretty much stayed that way for nearly 30 years.
So if I was a touring cyclist and I wanted the information that was in the Rolodex, did I have to like call John Mosley and tell him like, here's the part of the country that I'm going through, who you got on the list?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, wow.
And he would give you the contact name and number and all that information, all on the landline phones.
Wow.
So then in 1993, it shifted, that is a pun intended, to warm showers. I know. So they switched from the Rolodex to a database and map. So essentially, Excel spreadsheet. And then in 2005...
Proto Excel, probably. Like, what database software was around back then?
Some sort of tabling situation. And then in 2005, they got the website. So warmshowers.org. And fast forward 30 more years to today, there are over 187,000 users. There are 127,000 of those are hosts, and Warm Showers operates in 161 countries, and you can find hosts that speak 17 different languages.
And those are just the official stats.
Those are just the official stats.
I'm pretty sure that that's like undercounting a little bit.
Right.
Because a lot of like couples who live together, they share an account, and I'm sure that people don't like list every single like language that they know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ian, You've been using Warmshowers for longer than me, and you're the one who introduced me. Can you talk about your first experience with Warmshowers?
Yeah, I discovered Warmshowers while I was on the road. So my first solo multi-day tour was in June of 2020, of all times.
Oh, wow.
Right? I had to go from the Twin Cities down to Cedar Rapids, Iowa for a deposition. And I was like, well, I don't want to drive. This was kind of the beginning of my era of trying to figure out how to do literally everything without being in a car. And COVID just started. I don't want to be in a bus with a bunch of other people, So I was like, okay, I am going to bike all the way down there. And I budgeted 5 whole days for that. And on the last day, when I was approaching Cedar Rapids, there's this lovely state trail that goes from Waterloo down to Cedar Rapids. And I'm biking along. I come up behind another guy who has he's got 3 or 4 panniers on his bike, and I'm like, oh, a fellow, another soul who's out here going on a long trip. So I come up behind him and we start chatting, and I ask him, if he's on a long tour and everything. He was actually practicing for an upcoming trip. And he asked me, have you ever heard of Warmshowers? And I was like, yeah, I like to take warm showers. What do you mean, sir? And so that's how I found out about this website. And I created an account soon afterwards, and I used Warmshowers later on during that trip on my way back home, because I went up towards the Eau Claire area before coming back over to the Twin Cities. And so I stayed with a Warmshowers host, halfway between Eau Claire and the Twin Cities. It was pretty cool.
Because I signed up to be a host first,
mm-hmm.
after hearing about your experiences and how it was a really positive impact on your trip. I was like, I want in on this.
Yeah.
And I moved into a new apartment that had a little bit more space. And I was like, yeah, I think it is feasible for me to host 1 or 2 people at a time. And so I did. And it was fast. I don't remember when I started, but it was within a few months. I got my first guest.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was impressed.
and it was the Aussie. So I hosted an Australian who was biking from Portland to New York City. And he was about halfway through, and he wanted to have a few rest days. So he stayed with me for 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
That was wonderful because I had understood it to be kind of like an overnight situation only for most guests and hosts. So to be able to have my first guest stay for 3 days, it was kind of special. And when did you start hosting?
I started hosting this summer, actually. And hosting is something that I wanted to do much, much earlier. But until April of 2023, I was living in a house with, 4 to 5 other people at any given time. And it just wasn't feasible. Not everybody in the house was comfortable having a random stranger on a bike come over and stay. And so living on my own in my own apartment was my first opportunity to be able to mark myself as available for hosting on Warmshowers. Mm-hmm. And that was very exciting.
And then, so I, probably about a month after having my first guest, I became a guest myself in kind of an unexpected way. I was out on a bike tour. The weather was a little bit challenging. The distance was a little challenging. So I changed my route, and there wasn't camping availability. It was a holiday weekend or something. Oh, it was MEA weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is your Driftless tour, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't really have a place to stay. I don't really feel like doing some wild camping or trying to camp in a public park or something on the sneaky. So I reached out to a few people and I was like, hey, I need a place to stay in 8 hours. And this wonderful family took me in, and it was everything I could have hoped for as a first time guest experience, and so much more.
I'm sure we'll get into that story a little bit more in a bit.
I think so. So Ian, since you are more of a pro than me, how do you use the system? What are the ways that you can interact and become part of the Warmshowers community? Yeah.
So, step 1 obviously is creating your profile, right? And just like any other online platform, you want to put a little bit of thought into it. I think that some of the really important information to put in there is like managing expectations is the name of the game, right? Both as a host and as a guest, right? I think by and large, most cyclists who are out there on tour who are looking to guest expect very, very little, you know? Like,
right. You're just like, I want some sort of roof, and
right.
perhaps a warm shower would be good.
Some people don't even want a roof. They're just like, oh, I just want to know that like the property that I am camping on, I'm not going to get kicked off of. Right.
No one's going to call the cops.
Right. Yeah. And so, yeah, like there's that end of it. But then like as the host as well, like telling people exactly what they can expect when they arrive at your place,
right.
you know, and the profile creation process kind of guides you through some of these things, you know, of like, oh, how many guests can you accommodate? What kind of like shared space versus private space do you have? Are you going to be able to provide any meals as the host, or, you know, is the guest going to be on their own for like seeking out food and stuff? And then while you are out there on the road, figuring out how far in advance are you going to be like contacting people, I think is a really like, it's definitely a balancing act, right? Last summer when I was touring from Southern Indiana back here to the Twin Cities, one of my goals for that trip was to minimize every operating expense that I possibly could. And so like lodging was a big one of those. And so because of that, like Warmshowers was my plan A, which is honestly like the people who run Warmshowers, they tell you like, this shouldn't be your plan A. This should be like your backup plan. You know, it's nice to have a Warmshowers host if, right. You know, but I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to try to stay with Warmshowers hosts as often as I possibly can. And so I was like looking on the map 2 to 3 days ahead of where I was and figuring out like, oh, I'm going to modify my route a little bit in order to like hit these particular hosts. And I was contacting people about 2 days in advance of when I was going to be arriving. And that felt like the sweet spot to me because my plans didn't change too much. You know, I didn't end up with like I didn't make it quite as far as I thought I was going to, and then have that ripple effect. Like I didn't have like 5 different people who thought I was going to be arriving on day, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it changed to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Right. And I have my profile pulled up because I just wanted to peek at a couple of things. So being able to say like your maximum guest number, right? Like there's a lot of like touring couples, so I wanted to make sure that I could accommodate those. I don't know if I can accommodate a whole tandem bike in my apartment, but having like the preferred notice. But I think the best part of the entire profile system is they ask why I tour, how I tour, why I host, and how I host. Because hearing why you're the person who's staying with you, why they tour, that's important to me. And then hearing like, why do they host? Like part of the reason I host is because people have hosted me, and I'm like, that was so valuable of an experience that I want to give that back.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a pretty common experience, a pretty common story in the Warmshowers community. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of people who are hosting on there who have never been out on a tour on their own.
Right? Oh, that's so sweet. So, okay, let's pretend that our listeners, they've decided, I want to do this on either end. Can we go through some tips of how to be a really good guest and how to be a superstar host?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which one do you want to start with?
Let's start with hosting, because that's something that you can do. You can start hosting tomorrow if you want.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
So you talked about like talking about expectations, what you want out of your guest, and being able to be realistic about what you can offer and what you can't.
Right.
For example, I work at an office 4 days a week, so I can't be home all the time. And since you often work from home, you can't always promise endless privacy.
Right. That's very true. And you can promise people you will be able to get into the apartment building and get into the apartment.
Right.
Even when Stina's not home.
Correct.
I can promise that only if I know that they are coming beforehand, because I have to like hide the key in a specific place. But yeah, like even so, just earlier this week, I had a guy, Matt, who contacted me. Like, it was already 10 a.m. I was at work, and he messaged me, and I was like, oh, yeah, I can usually leave by like 1 p.m. and I can meet you anywhere and you know, let you into the apartment. So that, like, me having that flexibility definitely helps. Whenever I have a guest arrive, I'm always trying to be like sensitive to what they need and what they're looking for, because I know that, like, when you are touring on a bike, different people have different things that they want right away when they arrive somewhere. And sometimes that isn't even consistent for like, you know, sometimes I'll finish a day and I'm like, oh, I need to eat immediately. Other days it's like, oh, I feel disgusting and I need to shower immediately. Right. So I almost always ask a guest, like, what do you need right now? What is priority number one? Should I start making food while you take a shower? Or, you know, like, what? Yeah. What's their pressing thing? Because
you had a guest earlier in the summer who, it was like a singing with joy that you had conditioner to offer.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, you are on the road and a luxury like conditioner isn't necessarily high on your to-do list. And then your guest the other day, he was excited to have food that was cooked with a stove.
Right.
Because he didn't bring it to stove when he was touring. So kind of like figuring out, like, what do you need? And then for me, I want to ask, what are your social needs? Do you want privacy and quiet time? Or have you been on the road for 2 weeks and you haven't really hung out with another human? And you would love to go hammocking with my friends and I. Or you would love to come to a board game night at the brewery.
Yes.
Because those are things that I know. Those are things that I can offer really easily. It's more of a struggle when I get someone who's like, oh, I think I would like some alone time. I'm like, okay. So kind of knowing that, I mean, being able to offer some local knowledge of, here's your closest grocery store. You arrived on a Sunday, not every bike shop is going to be open. Here are the closest ones. Or letting them know, like, I have bike chain lube and rags and things, and we can try to do a little bit of fixing here at the house.
Yeah. My latest guest, this was the end of his tour, right? That was a first for me. I haven't had anybody ending a tour in Minneapolis before. We're almost always the halfway point on people's cross-continental trips, right?
We're always going across the country.
But yeah, Matt was like, you know, feeling pretty done with his tour, and so he wanted to fly out the next day. And we sat here, you know, in the evening trying to figure out what were the logistics going to be of boxing up his bike and getting it shipped, and where could he go, like which bike shops in the area were going to be able to accommodate that, and also being able to take public transit to the airport. That's something I would definitely recommend to people if you want to host, is even if you don't use public transit on a regular basis yourself, get familiar with the public transit in your area, because a lot of times, like, that is a really important tool for a touring cyclist to be able to take advantage of.
Right. Like, kind of put yourself into their shoes, into their clip-on bike shoes. Sorry. I'm new to this city. I've never been here before. I do not have a car, but I do need to get some things done while I'm here. And how to get that accessibly.
Yeah. Like, I'm really glad that you and I have adopted the Metro Transit stops near each of our homes, because we always have, like, a go-to card that we can just give to the guest when they get here and be like, hey, this thing has like 5 trips left on it. Go wherever you need to.
Yeah, or being able to show them how to use the transit app and buy like a weekend pass if they're going to be here for a little bit. Can I shift gears again?
Sure.
So, Ian, what are your tips for being an all-star guest?
Yeah, I would say getting in touch with somebody as early as you can. You know, as soon as you know, like, oh, I'm probably going to want to stay in that area, start that conversation so that you can figure out, you know, so sometimes you're going to be going into a city where there's several different people who are all available, and like figuring out which one of them is going to be available is great. When you're out in a rural area, a lot of times there's just the one.
Yeah. So when you were using the website, there's also an app. The app is paid. The website is free.
I have not used the app.
Okay. I have used the app. I did the free trial for a month. I thought that using the website was a little bit easier.
Huh.
So you reach out, you find someone in the area you're going to, you click on their profile, you love it so much, you read it, you send them a message. What happens next?
Well, usually people, so because the website is structured such that any messages that you send get forwarded to your email address, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people in their profiles will say like, I'm not checking my emails 100% of the time. So like text me at this number if you need to get in touch right away. That's a good thing to pay attention to.
Yeah. Yeah, what are the communication desires of your potential host?
Mm-hmm, yeah. And, reading their profile and being familiar with, like, what is it that they are going to be able to provide, so that you aren't trying to eat all of the food in their kitchen when they, clearly said like, oh yeah, you're on your own for food. But yeah, just like communicating what is it that you are going to need when you arrive. Are you somebody who's just looking for a patch of grass to tent on, in the lawn, or are you packing super minimal and you're like, yeah, no, I actually do need a private room where I'm going to be sleeping and yada yada.
And I need to do my laundry because it's been a long time.
Right, yeah.
I'm biking in the same dirty chamois for 3 days.
Disgusting.
Ugh. Yeah, I think like as a guest, realizing that it's a two-way bike lane, like yes, you are getting free accommodation, but these people are opening up their home to you. So knowing what you can do. I always like to leave like a handwritten note, especially if I'm leaving very early in the morning. You and I were on a trip where we had to leave at like 5 a.m. So being able to like leave a note, switch out the bedding, or I've even bought my host dinner. They were oh, let's take you out. And I was like, okay. So I like bought them dinner. It was like pizza, but it was like, it just felt like the right thing to do. And then I think my last thing about guesting is like the review process.
Yes.
So there's the opportunity for you as a guest to leave a review, but there's also the opportunity for the host to leave you, the guest, a review. And that's kind of something that a lot of people depend on, especially if you're an early user, is I want to read other people's reviews. If it's someone who stayed with like 60 hosts, I'm not as concerned about that.
Right.
But if it's someone like this is their second time out on the road, I want to read those positive reviews.
It's not so much a red flag if you see somebody who's like their account is brand new and they don't have any feedback yet. I did have a recent guest who like their account was 6 years old and they didn't have any feedback. And I was a little bit like, is this legit? Do I actually want to let this person into my home? And I did, and it was fine. But it was something that gave me pause.
Right. I guess in like the most relaxed sense of being a host and being a guest is you are either offering someone a safe place to stay or they're giving you a safe place to stay, and that's it. On the other side, you might get to make a new friend. Yeah. And get to do some very ridiculous stuff. So do you mind? Can I share you a little story?
Absolutely.
So when I was staying with my first ever host family.
You never forget your first.
I know. They were absolutely like happy to share their social life with me. They just so happened to be going to a friend's retirement/birthday party. And I was like, okay, cool. It's like up in this ski chalet. So I go with them. And I don't find out until we get there that their best friend is retiring as a urologist. So everything is urology themed. And a lot of like, I would say props and candy molds that were designed for bachelorette parties, to put it lightly. And then there was like a live band, and the guy ended up singing with the band, and it was this multi-hour thing, and they introduced me as like, this is Stina, she's staying with us only for tonight, she's a bicycle tourist. And I was like, oh, that's so special and so beautiful, and it makes me want to like send them a Christmas card or something. They were so cool.
And that was in the La Crosse area, right?
Yes. And that was La Crosse, Wisconsin.
That's so funny because the hosts who I stayed at with in La Crosse were also like, I had to stay there for like 2 extra nights or something because it was like really stormy and I didn't want to be out in that. And they were like, oh yeah, like we're going to go out on the boat today on the river with some friends. Like, you want to come with us? Yeah. It's, and we've also made other friends. Up by St. Cloud, like the host who I stayed with this summer, I realized that they are big nerds into a lot of the same things that you and I are into. And so like, I took that opportunity to really connect with them around a lot of that stuff and just like hang out and, you know, talk over dinner and everything. And like we have a pact now that's like, okay, anytime that we have cyclists who are staying with us here in the cities who are going up that way or vice versa, like we're like, oh yeah, we'll just send them to each other.
Yeah. Oh, they were so wonderful. So kind of getting into that is the local, like when you look up the map of Minneapolis, there are a lot of dots. Well, they're not dots. They're little wheels.
Little pins.
Spokes. They're so cute.
Oh, yeah.
You zoom out on Minneapolis-St. Paul area, and it is gigantic and covered with little dots for hosts.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, like, there's so many of us. Like, you have one that is, what, a block away, if that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And we've never met them.
Not yet.
Not yet. So kind of like there's all these hosts within your community, within our town, our city, our neighborhoods, and we don't know them yet. So that's something that we want to do as hosts is get together with other Twin Cities folks who also host and kind of like swap stories and hang out. And I mean, being able to know the folks in your neighborhood, if you're like, hey, I am unable to host. I got a request. I'm unable to host, but the guy who lives a block and a half away from me, reach out to him. I think he fits the vibe of what you're looking for to host.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, trying to build community because we have been able to build these individual connections between us as cycling tourists and our hosts or us and our guests. And now we have like, I feel like we should have like a pin board of where our guests are either coming from or going to.
A Rolodex maybe?
No, absolutely not. But like now, like I have a connection in Australia.
Right.
And we have connections in Philadelphia and Canada and all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I want to see more of in the Warmshowers community is connections within your own area.
Right. Yeah. I think that would be a really good thing, a good activity for us to do during the winter season is like host a meetup for local hosts. And, you know, and it'll give us something to do like a connection to warm showers during a time of year when none of us are thinking about warm showers.
Right. I mean, we are pretty lucky in that like we do have a hosting season and a non-hosting season. I would be very shocked if someone was traveling across Minnesota in, say, January. It could happen. That would be strange, but I would have a lot of respect for that person.
Related to the topic of that there's a lot of hosts here in the Twin Cities, I was very surprised when I marked myself as available to host and very soon had somebody requesting. And like, you know, over this summer season, I've had like 3 guests here. You've had, I think, about the same number, 3 or 4 that you,
yeah, 4.
And I'm just kind of surprised at how many people have picked out our dots from among the crowd of everybody. And I wonder if it's kind of partially because a lot of the folks who are touring around are young, they're in their 20s. And most of the hosts that you encounter are like retired age and are trying to give back to the community. And that's great. You've stayed with a lot of people who are that age. And then you come to a city like Minneapolis and you're like, oh, there's somebody who's 30 years old. I want to hang out with them for a couple days.
Right. I think I want to stay with one of my peers.
Right.
Just once. Do you think it's like the proximity factor to you are very close to the Midtown Greenway?
That's true.
And then I'm very close to the Cedar Lake Trail. I think if you can see it from my windows.
You can definitely hear the train going by.
Yes, you can. And I'm also very close to the Loose Line. So we do have these major thoroughfares through the cities really close to us. So I wonder if that makes us ideal hosts.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Along with like our ages and the fact that I have a cat. I think that's a lot of people that stay with me are huge cat fans. And they are thrilled to be staying with a super friendly pet. Did you know that Warmshowers has their own podcast? I
do. I listen to it frequently.
Yeah, so if you want to hear more stories of Warmshowers guests and hosts from all over the world, I would say they're primarily from folks outside the U.S., I would check out the Bike Life podcast. It's in the show notes. They've been going for a few years, so there's lots of backlog of of deliciousness to enjoy.
They've had a couple of guests from Minnesota, and we might end up hosting some of those episodes here on our feed.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see if we,
And we might, vice versa, we might send in a tidbit to them and see if they want to talk to us.
That's true.
About, especially if we have that community meetup that we were talking about. Wouldn't it be great to talk to them on their podcast?
That would be fantastic.
And then, so if someone wants to become a host, and we highly recommend becoming a host if you are able to, how do you do that?
You just go to the warmshowers.org website and create an account. And you can mark yourself as available. You can mark yourself as not available at any time. For most of us, that is like, when I'm going off on a tour and I know that I'm not going to be able to host for a while. Right. But literally, like, anytime that you're on vacation or you're on, like, yeah. Unfortunately, the website doesn't let you automatically go back to being available. You get to mark on your profile like when you expect to be available again, but it doesn't automatically switch you back.
Yeah. Thanks for talking today, Ian.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, well, this is your podcast.
It is so weird to be sitting on this side of the table, honestly.
Yeah.
Kind of refreshing that somebody else had to, make all the notes and keep track of what we were talking about and everything.
All right, well, I'll talk to you next time.
Remember the Warm Showers host we mentioned who lives just a block from me? Well, we reached out to him, and he was down to come on the show. Before we get into that conversation, though, let's take a break in the parklet. Today we have a listener quick question. For the Gold Line BRT line, which is currently under construction, will we be allowed to bike on it, similar to the U of M Transitway? The answer is unfortunately no, but as part of the construction project, they are putting in bike trails in many places along the route. These trails are particularly important for making connections with existing trails, such as the Etna Street station connecting south to the Robert Pieram Trail via Burns Avenue. If you have questions that probably have a quick answer, write into podcast@streets.mn and we'll research it for you. The Streets.mn podcast is looking for sponsors. If you would like to support the show and connect with our very engaged audience, you could have a message right here in the parklet. Email us at podcast@streets.mn. All right, now on to the conversation with Jim Young, fellow Warm Showers host from the Seward neighborhood.
Most of our guests don't know about Milwaukee Avenue, and when they get there, they're pleasantly surprised. But it's not the sort of place that they seek out necessarily.
Right.
When they come, a lot of times we'll invite them to have dinner with us, and we'll sit on the porch and eat dinner, and there'll be people walking by, and some of them that we know will stop and say hello, and we'll introduce our guests and so forth. And of course, that happens whether they're Warm Showers guests or anybody. And so it is, you're right, a community in itself. And it's a very friendly and quiet place to come to if you want to sit down and read a book or just people watch or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and because when I think about like the Warm Showers like hosts that I've stayed with, the ones that really stick with me that have made an impact are the ones where like I was not only meeting and getting to know my hosts, but like they also kind of integrated me into their social life as well, just for the day that I was there.
Yeah.
And that, that's the kind of thing that feels really special. So I guess let's take a step back again. How long have you been hosting on Warm Showers?
Probably about 6 years. It started when I was planning a trip with my two sons. We were going to tour from Minneapolis to Madison, Wisconsin.
Nice. And
that was kind of a retirement present for me. I had recently retired, and my two sons came back from where they were at the time, Illinois and California. And the three of us then did the bike ride, the 300-mile bike ride to Madison over 5 days.
Nice.
And one of the days I was looking for a place to stay. We were planning on mostly staying in motels or hotels and eating out at restaurants. But it also happened to be right when they were holding Oktoberfest in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And there wasn't a hotel within 30 or 40 miles of La Crosse that I could find that was open and had space for us. Mm-hmm. So I looked around, and somebody had told me about Warmshowers a couple of times. A couple of people that I knew had told me about that and said, oh, you ought to look at that. So I went on the Warmshowers website, signed up, and found a place to stay. A fellow in La Crosse, right in town, offered to let us stay there. And he had, his typical older home. He had a nice space for us in the downstairs, in the basement. And it was just wonderful. We took him out to dinner, and the four of us sat around. His favorite restaurant was a Chinese buffet. Nice. So it was like a $10 dinner that we paid for him. There you go. And he said that was his favorite place. We would have taken him to, some fancy restaurant if he'd wanted to. But it was really nice to get to know him a little. And in the morning, he went off to church because that was a Saturday night that we stayed with him. And he said, oh, yeah, just, help yourself to breakfast. There's cereal and eggs and stuff upstairs. And he said, you don't need to lock the door when you leave. Just close it and it'll be fine. Yeah. And so that's exactly what we did. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I guess I wouldn't leave my door unlocked in Minneapolis. Right. La Crosse, that might be just fine. And so afterwards, I thought, well, I should offer to host some people, just kind of pay back the community a little bit. And so I signed on, and we've hosted not a lot of people, but a few every summer, except during COVID. Right. People were coming through and looking for a place. And my wife has really enjoyed hosting people. We've had some absolutely crazy people come stay with us. And
crazy in a good way?
Yeah. One woman from New Zealand just wanted to try everything. So she came here, and there was going to be a big political meeting here. Some senator or somebody was coming in to speak. So she went to that. She signed up for it, found out about it, signed up and went, and just to see what it was like in America to do something like that. Another family had a couple and then two, I would say, preteen sons that were with them. And they were biking from the West Coast to Maine. And doing it, that was all summer. And the preteen kids, they hadn't ever done much biking before they started this trip. And so...
What an introduction.
Yeah, no kidding. They had lived on Hawaii before they came to the West Coast, and they were moving to Maine, so that was where they were going to end up. And, this was just totally foreign to them. And here they are 1,000 miles or a couple thousand miles, I suppose, into the journey. And so, we asked them, how was it? What did they think? And, well, they weren't totally sold on the whole program. But they did say that, it's getting better. And coming into Minneapolis was really cool, they thought, because they could see the big buildings in downtown. And if you think about it, there really isn't much between the West Coast and Minneapolis in terms of big downtowns that you would be biking into. Yeah. You're going through North Dakota and Montana, and you might see some taller buildings, maybe if that's where the path that you selected went. But with where we are in Minneapolis and the bike trails that we have, they come right, not through downtown, but pretty close.
Yeah.
And you can see the downtown, see the big buildings, see the freeways and whatnot, and yet you're still on the lovely separated bike trails. So, yeah, it's it's been a real mix of people and interests and whatnot, and it's been fun to do, and I think we'll continue offering to let people stay with us, especially now that we have some extra bedrooms that they can use.
There you go.
That does help. If our two sons were still living with us, it'd be hard to host people. That many people in a small house.
Right.
Our house is small.
Well, you're talking to a guy in a 1-bedroom apartment
Yeah.
here. Yeah. Whenever I have a guest coming over, I always message my partner. I'm like, all right, can I sleep over at your place? Because otherwise, I'm going to be on
the floor,
on a sleeping bag on the floor. Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
What makes the Warmshowers community special to you?
It's really a lot of trust, I guess. Here you are, you're inviting strangers into your home.
And on the flip side, here you are, somebody on a bicycle, just like putting your trust in the person that you're staying with. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I have had occasion where somebody would message me and say, I'm looking for a place to stay. And you look at the review from the last person that they stayed with, mm-hmm. and they said, well, this person didn't come on a bike. He flew in. And so, do you trust that person? Why is he coming to Minneapolis? And how does he or she intend to, use this offer, mm-hmm. where you don't really ask for any remuneration or anything like that? It's we're not a hotel. We're just somebody with a house that we let people stay in. We're not like a Airbnb or anything like that either.
Yeah.
So, the person that wasn't biking, I just declined to host them. Mm-hmm. Not that there was necessarily anything wrong with him, but it didn't seem like he really fit what I imagine somebody looking for a Warmshowers stayover would be doing.
Yeah.
So, I think that's probably the biggest single thing that I see is we're kind of working with people that have similar worldviews that we do in terms of, finding a bicycle as a both practical and a fun way to get around. And we're just facilitating that a little bit for the ones that are touring over a longer distance. Mm-hmm. So I think that's something that's a little bit unique with Warmshowers as opposed to an Airbnb or something like that.
Or even like couch surfing is probably the closest mm-hmm. comparison, but even because that doesn't have a theme to it. Mm-hmm. It's less of an affinity group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in meeting other Warmshowers hosts who live in the Twin Cities?
Yeah, I think that would be a fun thing to do. Just compare notes with other people that have done it and mm-hmm. talk to them about, how do they vet people and what kind of experiences they've had.
Yeah, we're thinking about organizing a little meetup along those lines,
mm-hmm.
probably sometime over the winter when the touring season is in a lull. Yeah. I have no other details beyond that. We have not done very much planning. It's just an idea so far.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody who wants to start hosting and, is kind of looking for the place to start?
Mm-hmm. I would say sign up to Warmshowers and look at what some other people write on their profiles and look at the services that they offer. People that have come to us have found having a good, secure place to park their bikes to be important, and having access to laundry facilities and showers to be real important. Our house is a one-bedroom house, so Like when we hosted the couple with 2 children, that was 6 of us in the 1-bedroom house with 1 bathroom. And, we had to take turns showering, and then they had to wait a little bit for the water heater to catch up when they were I think the 4th person got kind of a cool shower. Mm-hmm. You just make it work, and you don't have to have a big fancy place. Like you have a 1-bedroom apartment, and you are able to host people, and that's really cool. That you don't have to have a fancy place. Yeah, you just offer them a little bit what you have, and go from there.
Yeah, and I was kind of surprised because you look around on the map and you're like, wow, there's so many people hosting in Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Are there?
So I listed myself as available just because, I wanted to make myself available, but I didn't expect to get any hits because I was like, there's so many people available, and I'm offering a 1-bedroom apartment, and who's going to go for that over, a house where they're going to have like a private room and, mm-hmm. Like more space and everything. And, I can't offer anybody like space to pitch their tent if that's what, if they want to go that route.
Yeah.
But like I've hosted 3 people this summer, and it's like, you like having a variety of different venues and different kinds of offerings, mm-hmm. I think is really valuable.
Yeah.
For hopefully it's not a little too overwhelming for somebody coming into the Twin Cities and being like, wow, I have to pick one person out of all of these. But yeah, it's and not just like the variety of what kinds of homes you can stay in, but also like the variety of different people with different experiences and different kinds of like, mm-hmm. Things that you're going to be able to chat about.
Yeah. I think, just the things that you don't expect or you don't know about, it's kind of serendipity. You just, we'll try it, see how it works out. Mm-hmm. I think one thing for both your place and mine is we're located close to bike trails.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so
bike trails and the light rail.
And light rail.
The public mm-hmm. transit is, I think, a huge part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's something that is kind of a selling point when you're talking to people about, how do I get there? How do I get my bike that has 80 pounds of gear on it? And those are, again, things that you just kind of work out. But it's attractive to be close to the bike trails and to the public transit and to have access to those things close by.
Absolutely. And I mean, it turns out those are things that I was like looking for when I was trying to figure out where I was going to move to as well, because like I get around by bike on a daily basis. So
mm-hmm. Yeah.
The things that a bike tourist are going to be looking for are also the things that I'm looking for.
Yeah. And the things that you have.
Do you do a lot of touring these days?
We haven't done much in the United States.
Okay.
We've taken several tours in Europe, what they call a self-guided tour, where they provide maps and directions on where to bike from point A to point B, mm-hmm. and arrange for hotels and luggage transfers. And so that's just a wonderful way to see parts of Europe. Mm-hmm. Our last tour was in Germany from Dresden to the outskirts of Berlin. And it was just a very interesting trip for us. We lived for 2 years in Germany, back in the 1980s. And to go back and go to parts of Germany that we couldn't really see at that time because that was in the East.
Because it was in East Germany, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just to kind of note the differences of what it was like now here 30 years after the two Germanys were combined back together. Mm-hmm. But there's still very distinct differences. And to see what's changed over the last 30 years from when the two Germanys were back reunited. And it's also just a wonderful way to see any place.
Totally.
You know, you're traveling along at a very modest pace. They typically don't give you racing bikes. You get, sturdy kind of city bikes.
Yeah.
So you're not going along at 20 miles an hour. You're going along at 12, 10.
Yeah.
And you're going through like forest roads and where the farmers drive their tractors and kind of that level of
probably good to have the sturdy bikes then.
Yeah. Yeah. Or along a river, there's oftentimes towpaths or canals that you can bike along. And you've had somebody who's arranged to show you, where to go and to arrange for luggage transfer so you don't have much that you're carrying on your bike and hotels.
Yeah. So not a whole lot of Warmshowers hosts in that scenario.
Not in that scenario. And it's obviously very easy to plan.
Right.
Because somebody else has done all that for you. There are people who bike all over Europe and do all that themselves. They look for hotels that where they can stay or Warmshowers hosts that they can stay at and, have enough detail on the maps and things so they can figure out how far to go each day and things like that. And we met some people that were doing that, but it was oftentimes a little bit precarious to do all that planning yourself because you might not know exactly how far you're going to get.
Right.
And you might sign up for, going way farther than you really wanted to go. And the hotels might all be booked at that particular date in time. So yeah, it's a very easy way for a foreigner to just show up and pedal around and have a great time. And we've done that several times. We've done several trips in Europe like that.
Like you said, you never know quite how far you're going to make it, any given day. Like that's one of the reasons that when I'm touring, I try not to plan farther ahead than like,
a day or two.
Yeah, exactly. Because you don't want those ripple effects to just like cascade.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which stresses my partner the heck out because she is like a planner and she like
wants everything lined up yeah, that's more like my wife too. She's not comfortable with these kind of we'll take care of that tomorrow sort of scenarios. If it isn't all laid out, she's not happy.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had to like strike a balance between like, okay, we have plan A all laid out and we have a few backup options for like where we can stay in between those places. Yeah.
One thing that is really nice about being a host and being hosted through Warmshowers is you can help your guests find their way through the really pretty parts of the city and the really nice bike trails and things like that. I have a Warmshowers person who we didn't think we could host, but she's going to be here on Saturday, and I'm going to just show her around. We're going to go biking together.
There you go. And that's wonderful because it's not just about hosting people and providing a place to stay, but providing that friendship and
and just a local guide. Somebody that can take you along the river road and show you some interesting places, or along Minnehaha Creek to the chain of lakes or something like that.
Yeah. I think most of my guests, once they arrive here and they realize that like I can talk for forever about, transportation stuff and about like local history and, like all these little tidbits that I have floating up in my brain. That's, Yeah. We take them, walking along Milwaukee Avenue for sure, like any chance that we get.
Yeah. Since it's so close, it's only a block away.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Jim, thanks for coming on the show. You'll definitely have to send this to your son because I'm sure he'll be impressed that you're on Streets MN.
My son has written a few articles for Streets MN, and this will be my first.
There we go. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Streets.mn podcast. This show is released under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Non-Derivative license, so feel free to republish the episode as long as you're not altering it and you are not profiting from it. The music in this episode is by Eric Brandt and the Urban Hillbilly Quartet. This episode was hosted by Christina Neel, edited by Parker Seamon AKA Strongnathy, and transcribed by me, Ian R. Buck. Parker's new to the podcast team, so everybody say, "Hi, Parker." We're always looking to feature new voices on the Streets.mn podcast, so if you have ideas for future episodes, drop us a line at podcast@streets.mn. Find other listeners and discuss this episode on your favorite social media platform using the hashtag StreetsMNPodcast. Until next time, take care.